Let's now call our next speaker. He's going to share about the 2017 human resource trends, new rules, new games, discover the 3 HR meta trends which have emerged from our global survey conducted by Deloitte. We now have the pleasure to call on stage Philippe Burger, partner at Deloitte.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Philippe Burger. I'm the managing partner for Deloitte, for the human capital practice within Deloitte. I'm very happy to be here. I'd like to share with you the results of this survey, which is a global survey carried out with over 10,000 corporations across the globe. But before I get into the key figures and the key results of this survey, I'd like us to share some thoughts as to what are the underlying roots for those major HR trends that we are all living through. Well, first of all, when you think about it, when it comes to the changes that the technology is actually bringing to us all, one might be concerned about the fact that the growth in productivity hasn't been that huge over the last decade or so. If you take some of the figures for the US market, for example, we are talking about a 1.1, 1.3 on average growth in productivity level, which is, by the way, slightly lower than what we have all experienced in the previous decades. So somehow one might wonder, how does it come that we are talking about all these technology changes, all those massive changes that we are all facing, and we are only seeing a tiny bit of it when it comes to the actual productivity? The core underlying reason for that is really the fact that we have difficulties as an individual, as an organization, or more globally as a society, to actually grasp the full extent of those changes in the technology. And if we dig further into that, we'll understand that there are basically 4 underlying roots that are driving the changes today. And we will see that as time goes, it's going to make massive changes in the way we do business within our organization, the way we attract people, the way we change the organization of the future. 4 roots underlying those 3 mega trends that we'll discuss about. The first one is that never ever before have we experienced so many different generations within any organization. We have got 5 different generations, and as life expectancy is going to rise, we are looking nowadays for the Y generation. 1 out of 2 people from the Y generation would live over 100 years old. That means that in practice, we are not talking about working for 30 years, 40 years, but probably 50, 60, or even 70 years of professional experience. I can see a few of you reacting like, how can I be within an organization at 70, 80 or others? If you think about it, you might be working for an organization, you might be working outside this organization, but you will have an influence on that. So first underlying root is the fact that you've got so many generations, and you have to answer to those needs, the expectation of those different generations within and outside your organization. Second underlying root for those changes. Technology is driving a lot of revolution in the way we do things. You have all heard about the Moore law. The Moore law drives you that every 18 months or so, technology, the power of computers will double. But when you think about it as a human brain, it's difficult to assess what is an exponential growth. I mean, you do understand what is a linear growth. Exponential is difficult to understand. One of the engineers within Intel, so one of the people, you know that Moore was one of the co-founders of Intel, one of the engineers actually worked out what that means doubling the power of computers every 18 months. It means that basically if you take a 1971 Beetle, you know the car, the Volkswagen car? Nowadays, such a car would drive at 180 kilometers per hour, would only cost 3 cents to build, and would only consume the equivalent of a full tank, but for a lifetime. So that's the kind of changes that we are all facing when it comes to technology. Third change that we are all facing is the fact that there is a new relationship between any organization and an employee. The social contract, if I may use that term, has changed. Nowadays, you can see employees asking, talking to a recruiter and telling him or her, well, I might be inclined to joining you, I might be interested in joining you, but in practice, it may be only for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So how can you re-enlist me? How can you re-engage me for those coming years, the years after that? So that's a change in the relationship. Also, you have people that would say, well, yes, I'm ready to be an employee of the organization, but I'm also interested in, I don't know, cooking, in starting my own business elsewhere. So I want to do those two jobs while working for you. So new social contract, the third change. The fourth one, it's really that all of this is happening faster and faster. The average lifespan of a corporation, of a major corporation, 50 years ago, was on average 60 years. Nowadays, the average lifespan of the major corporation is about 15. So it means that the average lifespan went down by 75%. It really dropped. Things are moving, they are moving fast, really quick, and we have to adapt. So when we have a look at the new trends, so again, 10,000 leaders and HR professionals that were asked to react and think about what's happening. And by the way, you can download the full study, 137 pages. So I'll try to do that in the next 3 minutes that I have. But you can download that using Deloitte HR Trends, going on our website, don't hesitate. So we've summarized those 10 trends that are extracted from the HR trends in 3 mega trends. The first mega trend that you have to consider is the leadership that has changed, that has evolved. Organizations nowadays are much more fluid. I tend to use the word liquid, even though it's not perfect, just to say that things are transparent, they are moving. The ecosystem in which you are operating, you might be working with competitors, you might be working with other players, you might be working with startups, with universities, etc. So things are moving really fast and changing the way the organization is dealing with it. This means that we have to get a new breed of leaders. We also have to get the kind of leaders that are able to actually face the digital issues. 80% of the respondents are telling us we need a new program to develop our digital leaders. But only 1/3 of them actually are able to face that issue and to develop those programs. 88% of the organization that we've worked with, part of those 10,000 respondents, 88% are telling us we need a new organizational model. We are not agile enough. We need to adapt quickly, in a much quicker way. So first aspect, the leadership. We also need, as part of this leadership, apprehend a different way of assessing performance. Because nowadays I'm working much more, not with my manager, but mostly with you, and who is more inclined or able to actually assess my performance? Is it my manager, whom I will always see at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, but never in the midtime? Or more the people with whom I'm working, my peers, my colleagues, etc. We have 88% of organizations that are either have changed their performance management system, 38% of them, or are planning to change it. So organizations are changing, the vast majority of them are changing their performance management models. Second mega trend, employee at the heart of HR. We need to rethink the organization so that the employee is put at the core of the organization. We have to provide solutions, services that takes into account the needs of your employee. And yet, few organizations are able to take that into account. Only 39% of our respondents are telling us, I'm good at training, at using MOOC for developing my employees. So we have a big gap to develop there, a big change that we need to organize to making sure that our organization is like what we are we all have in our pocket, that smartphone that is so easy to use, so simple. We still have to reinvent that. And third aspect is basically the changes that digital is having on not only the way we work within an organization, the way we collaborate, but also the way HR is actually serving its existing customers. HR analytics is the key topic. How can I make the appropriate business decision, taking into account all the information that is available to me? I have an awful lot of information when you think about it. As an HR professional, I know how much you earn, whether you're married with children, what is your professional experience, what is your potential for going further, what kind of training do you need, and I'm only considering the information that is available within the organization, not the one that you as an employee are posting outside on the social networks. All of this data, we need to work on it, we need to develop it so that we can take appropriate business decisions. We have to get inspired by marketing that nowadays has been able to use it. We have over 60% of organizations that are using analytics for marketing purposes. Only 16% of HR organizations are using analytics for their decision. That has to change. So 3 mega trends, and just in a nutshell, in the 1 minute that I've got left, how should I take care of that? How could I change that? Maybe in 4 takeaways that should be of some consideration for you. The first one is really, we should stop thinking functionally. That is to say, we should not think anymore as to, this is an HR process, this is a finance process. Within HR, I can think about recruitment, I can think about talent management, performance management, and let's make that sub-process very effective. Let's make my recruitment very effective. Let's change that. Let's think about what are the needs of my employee and how can I rethink my full organization, focusing on my internal client, who is my employee. And by the way, your employee is not only your existing CDI, CDD employees, full-time employees, but it's also eventually partners with whom you might be working with. It might be also future employees when you are going into recruitment or talent acquisition, but also former employees, because they've got an influence. They might come back as an employee boomerang. So let's rethink all that, putting the employee at the center of our thoughts. As I've raised, be inspired by marketing, because we've got a lot of things to learn. I did put down a small piece of paper on that, on how marketing and HR maybe at some stage should be merged, and maybe that's the organization of the future. Test and learn. Don't be shy. Don't wait for things to be perfect, and just try it. Give it a try with employees, with outside world. Test, and that's the key aspect for design thinking. And basically, don't be scared by digital. Yes, as we have seen, and there was just a publication by the Oxford University today, explaining to us that by 45 years from now, so that's not far away when you think about it, 45 years from now, machine will overcome us when it comes to any of our intelligence or capabilities. That's even closer for a lot of the jobs. That means that we'll have to reinvent ourselves. We'll have to rethink differently. We'll have to provide other services. So don't be afraid by digital. That's going to be a change, but I'm sure we'll be able to overcome that. I hope you got inspired by this presentation, and I'll leave the room and the floor to Evan, I guess, for the next presentation, or to
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you. Well done.
Thanks to you.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.